I'm going to talk to you guys about how I went from zero to $500,000 net worth in 7 years. And I'm going to walk you through all of the decisions I made and all of the investments that I made to get to this point. Let's get into it. So to start off, I grew up with a parent who didn't handle finances very well. The cold hard truth is the fact that they did not handle finances well. And this created a lot of problems and a lot of issues growing up where we had to move a lot. I saw that it created problems in our lives that didn't have to be there. So as an adult, I decided to change that situation and take control over my finances and make it happen in the way that I would want. Starting off, I listened to a lot of Dave Ramsey, and he gave me a lot of guidance that I needed in order to pay off debts that I had. I had vehicles and student loans and things like that I had to plow through. But the thing with Dave Ramsey is really he just kind of gave me a vision where I needed to go as far as paying off my debt. And I felt like at the time, the best way for me to pay off my debt wasn't necessarily to live on a super strict budget. It was to increase my income so that I could just knock out my debt. And that's exactly how I handled it. Nothing against Dave Ramsey and his whole budgeting plan. I feel like it's a great thing for a lot of people. But for me personally, I felt like just increasing my income so that I could loosely follow a budget. And when I say loosely, I probably was pretty strict with it and pretty close to how he set things up. I just didn't meticulously analyze every penny that came into my account and went out. And so I did set up a budget for how much I could spend on personal things and fun and entertainment and things like that, but it wasn't to the level that he says. I honestly felt like my bigger problem was income and paying off the debt. Then later on in my life, I got a job working for a financial planning company. This honestly lit a fire underneath my butt when it comes to finances and investments and my future, as I was talking to people every single day that did not handle their finances the right way, and they were stressed out because they were about to retire and they did not have the investments that they needed. So let's get into my journey of how I went from basically $0 to $500,000 within 7 years. I'm gonna break it down so that you know exactly how I got there. So I won't lie, I was in the right place at the right time many times throughout my journey from 0 to $500,000. And I can honestly say that it was all because I got myself out of debt. And had I not got myself out of debt, I would not have been in the position to be able to throw down really hard on investments that were risky at the time. But because I had a vision of where I wanted to go financially, I was able to see the end result. And so I was able to be very risky at the right time. And I'm going to dig into some of those risky plays that I made right now. Some of the plays might be a little questionable for some people, but they ended up working out really well for me. And they were within my risk tolerance at the time. And definitely it is something that I look back at and was like, I'm so glad that worked out. But even if it didn't work out, I was in a financial position where it wouldn't have burned me that bad had things gone wrong. And just remember, this isn't financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. You know, having worked for a financial advisory, you kind of understand the laws and rules and regulations when it comes to giving advice. I'm just telling you guys my situation and how I worked it out. It's not necessarily going to work for everybody, but there's a couple things that will greatly benefit you if you learn them. And so that's my point of this video, is to educate and teach people and show, hey, this was my journey. This is how I overcame some of the problems that I had, and hopefully you can take with it and run with it as well. So I got started a little bit later in life. Really, I was 25 years old when I had started this whole journey. I got a job when I was 25. In fact, I got 2 jobs because I had done school prior to that, and I started working as hard as I can at those 2 jobs. They were both in sales, and so I was able to make a lot of money. And within a matter of a couple of years, I paid off a $10,000 vehicle, and I paid off about $15,000 of student loans. And then on top of that, I had also saved up about $10,000 just straight up just working my butt off for 2 years at these jobs and making sure that I was in the position that I felt comfortable in. Now, I really want to stress this part of the whole story because it really laid a foundation for the rest of what happened to me. It's super important for you to pay off your debt, and the best way to do that, like I said, in my opinion, is to just get extra jobs. make extra income, get some side hustles, whatever you need to do to increase your pay, to pay off your debt, and just use that to just knock it out and as hard and as fast as you can. Because if you have debt, you're not going to be able to invest the same way mentally. When it comes to investing, it's all mental. You need to be in a position where it's like, okay, I'm going to put a lot of money into this cryptocurrency and we're at all-time highs right now. And I don't know what to do. I don't know where it's going to go. And if I lose it all, it's going to just ruin me. That's the worst mindset that you can be in when it comes to investing. You need to be in the mindset of, hey, I'm going to put money down on this. And if I lose it, it's no big deal, because I'm sure in 10 years it's going to be up anyway, and I'm not going to stress. I'm going to sleep at night. I'm going to feel better about it. And so that's where you need to be when it comes to investing. And if you have a ton of debt, if credit cards, if you have loans, vehicle loans, things like that, it's going to eat at you. Investing will eat your soul if you let it. And so be smart with it and pay off your debts. Just get an extra job. And if that's all you get out of this video, I'm going to be super stoked. And so talking about what I did, I got those jobs. I paid off all of my debt. I had saved up a bunch of money and I met a young woman. We got married. Her car was going bad. And so I bought a ring with my savings. I had sold my Jeep and I bought a 1999 Toyota Tacoma, and then I bought her an Acura TL that was like a 2003 or something like that, and it was an older vehicle, both of them. I knew that because of the make, they would just last forever and just be good vehicles for us. And so I did that, and so I sold her old vehicle in my Jeep, paid for the new vehicles with cash, and was able to keep on steamrolling. So she had some debts that we were working on. She had student loan debts. And so I think at the time it was about 18,000, and we started really knocking those out. We were living in an apartment where we were paying $600 a month, and we were just destroying our student loan, or her student loans. And so we were putting about $1,000 a month on that and just knocking them out. And that really felt so good to me. It was, we were in a position where I was like, yes, we're doing this. We're going to pay this off really fast and it's going to be great. And then, we started getting into it. We started talking, and what happened is we ended up moving to a different part of the state. So I lived in northern Utah, and we moved to southern Utah. And in that move, it shifted a lot of things that we were doing financially. And so I wasn't able to get a job that paid as much as my previous job. The job market down here isn't as strong as where we were living before. And so I was a little bit stressed about that. And she's a nurse, and so she was able to transfer down, and everything worked out really smooth. And so then at that point, we also bought a home. And this is where things kind of get a little sketchy with the decisions I made when it comes to how we paid for the down payment. And so I had saved up about $10,000 in my previous employer 401k. And what I did is I cashed that out and I used that as the down payment. And so, yeah, I paid taxes on it. Luckily, because of the move and the situation we were in, we were able to claim hardship on it. So I didn't have to pay the penalty for it. And so at that point, I'm kind of scratching my head and thinking, this isn't the right thing to do, because we still have a bunch of student loans, and now we have maxed out an FHA loan. I think it was like $289,000. And because of our job situation, we were barely able to make it work financially. And so we were pretty house poor. We, pretty much all of our bills went to paying off our student loans in our home, and all the other bills that come with a home. And so luckily, we didn't have any major problems with the home. Everything went pretty smooth. We lived there for about 2.5 years, slowly got pay increases along the way. Things got a little more comfortable. We didn't furnish the house very well. We were legitimately house poor. We couldn't make any extra payments on our student loans and things like that. I think we may have a couple times when we got tax returns and things like that. And so we just dumped those on our student loans. And then what happened is we had decided, we had been there for 2.5 years, and we sold the home, and it was at a perfect time in our lives, or at least in the market. So the real estate market was booming down here, and our home had increased by over 100,000. I think after paying fees, realtor fees, and all the other stuff that you pay when you sell a home, we ended up cashing or netting about $100,000. So within 2.5 years, we generated a good amount of equity in the home. We were able to pay off all of our student loans. And then at that point, we also had enough for 20% down. So we had a conventional loan on our new home. So all those things combined, that saved us about $200 a month, not paying PMI and paying 20% down on the new home, which is bigger and better than our previous home. And so, we had kind of just made a big shift. And that at that point, things really changed because we were paying, I think it was about $400-ish a month towards student loans. And then we saved $200 a month on our mortgage that just got knocked off from all the things I mentioned. And so at that point, we really started investing. So this was about 2016, 2017. I started investing heavily. I maxed out our 401ks. I maxed the match from our employer 401ks. And then I was also investing into crypto, and we had done really well off that. And so at this point, we're looking at it. We have no debt. Our vehicles are paid off. We have our home that is cheaper than our previous home, and we are just dumping all of our extra money into our investments. And this is the point where you need to get to. This is honestly one of the best feeling points when you get to this, where it's just like freedom to just invest your money, and it'll change your mindset because you're going to be looking towards the future, and you'll see like, hey, I'm not going to retire for 30 years. So I might be investing in 2017 at the top of the Bitcoin market, and it's, Bitcoin's worth like $17,000 or whatever it was at the time. And everyone's like, holy crap, it's blowing up and it's super crazy. And you're like scared to keep buying in more. But what happens is you have this mindset where it's like, hey, you know what, if it all comes crashing down, it's no big deal. I'm just going to hold on to it. And so we had bought a bunch of Bitcoin. We were doing really well with our retirement accounts as far as the traditional investing route. And in that time, we were able to invest enough that nowadays we have about $80,000 in crypto. We have about $60,000 in our traditional retirement accounts. And then our home has about $340-ish thousand in equity. And so granted, the big chunk of my net worth is in my home. But that being said, I can do a lot with that. I can take out a HELOC. I can take equity out of my home and buy rental units and things like that. And those are all things that I'm exploring right now, trying to figure out what's next and what's going to happen and how I'm going to handle a lot of those things moving forward. But it really opens me up to have more options to borrow against the assets that I have. And so it's really, like I said, all of this is a mindset. You need to change your mindset when it comes to investing so that you can have a brighter, greater understanding of what's going to happen in the future. You have a vision for it so that you know that, hey, I'm going to be buying in likely at the top of the market, but in 10 years, the market's going to go through the roof. And, all this volatility that we're experiencing right now is, it might be stressful, but I'm going to look at like, dang, I wish I could have bought Bitcoin at $60,000. I wish I, could have bought Tesla at $1,000. It's crazy what changes when you are financially free from debt and when you have income to start throwing at investments. And so, like I said, if there's anything I want you to get out of this video, it's mainly just to get to the point in your life where you can pay off your debts, work as hard as you can, get those out of the way so that you can have the mental clarity that you need when it comes to investing so that you can make risky plays that will play out for you, even though it makes you feel uncomfortable. But when you have that extra income rolling in, you don't feel stressed about the risky plays that you're making because you can just cover it with your income. And so that's not going to happen until you pay off your debt. So If you liked any of this content, if you found any of it insightful, if you feel like you would like to know more, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment, talk to me about, where you're at. I'd love to hear from you guys. It's always super interesting to hear other people's stories and where they're coming from as well. And so thank you guys so much for watching. And like I said, keep your eye on your future self. Look down the road and understand that what you're doing now is greatly going to affect you later on, and keep grinding. Thanks a ton.